It is so much easier to find a client and have him pay you 1 million or 3 million than it is to find a client to give you 10,000 or less.
You want the clients that call you to keep growing, to be excited, to go and just be alive.
Hey, welcome to a podcast where dreams meet determination and success is just around the corner. I'm your host, Suzanne Taylor King, and I'm here to help you unlock the full potential of your business and your life. Welcome to Unlock Your Way with STK. Let's unlock your path to success together. Hey friends, it's Suzanne here, and I'm so excited to share something incredibly special with you. After the overwhelming response to my February Coaches in Conversation, this conversation really stood out with two of my mentors, Dr. Dorothy Martin-Neville and Mary Shakun, two absolute powerhouses in the world of coaching, personal transformation, and soul-aligned leadership. And honestly, everybody wanted more of them. So here it is. And I'm thrilled to announce that these special podcast episodes featuring these ongoing conversations, the women who've not only helped shift my mindset, my energy, elevating my clarity, and all the things I'm doing as a coach, including my income. These women don't just talk the talk, they live it. Their wisdom, their presence, their depth, it's transformative. And it's not just changing my life and my business. My hope is that it creates massive shifts for you as well. Whether you're a coach, a leader, or someone simply craving more alignment, truth, and purpose to what you do, you're not going to want to miss this. So hit subscribe, follow along, and join me for these powerful, raw, and engaging, inspiring conversations that could really change and shift something for you. Let's go deeper, let's grow together, and let's have a little fun doing it along the way. I'll see you in the first episode. Let me just brag on you just a little bit. Dr. Dorothy Martin-Neville has written 8 books. She is a transformational coach. My dog says, hi, Dorothy. And she has worked with leaders of Fortune 500 companies, entrepreneurs, and her own journey is a story in itself, from Catholic nun to international flight attendant to psychotherapist to living in the islands, teaching energy medicine and hosting retreats, and now a transformational coach for leaders. And we're going to put Dorothy's leadership assessment and report in the chat. Feel free to take that at your convenience. Welcome, Dorothy, to Coaches in Conversation.
Thank you, darling. It's good to be here.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Well, let's start off with 2 years ago when I met you. I was going through my own personal upgrade in my business, trying to figure out where I fit in the coaching space. And you said something to me during a networking event in a breakout room, and I don't know if you even remember this or not, but you said that you saw something in the way that I had led that meeting, and you wondered if I ever saw myself as a leader of my own group or community or running events. And I was like, no, not really. Not more than what I'm doing right now. And I wonder if that ability of yours to see people's journey has really helped you in your coaching practice.
Oh, God, yeah. It's helped me in my coaching practice. You know, I was a psychologist in practice for 20 plus years, and it also helped me see through my patients, see through their defenses, see through the masks they present, see through all of the defenses they throw at you, you know? So it's when you have that skill, and I think all of us are capable of having it.
Yeah.
It means being so comfortable in your own skin that you can take a look at somebody else's.
Yeah.
And it's truly being present with somebody and seeing who they are.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for seeing me at that time. And let's talk a little bit about the personal upgrade required because you've had your own journey in the last 2 years of upgrading your own pricing
Right.
while helping me do that. And what I love about this piece of it is that you were doing this work for yourself,
Mhm.
at your own level of upgrading while you were helping me upgrade. And there's something so authentic and real about having a coach who's actually, or I'd call you a coach, a mentor, a guide for me. And you were actually doing that work too. So let's talk a little bit about going from, $25,000 a year for your coaching to 100 and what that looked like for you.
Well, I started out because, as I said, I started out as a psychologist. Well, I started out many things from an orphanage all the way up, but in professionally starting out as a therapist and having the audacity to raise my fees every few years. And then as a coach, starting out at 25,000 because at that point in time, 18 years ago, I thought that was a huge amount of money, right? But it was what the going rate was. And then maybe 10 years later, realizing that more people had up leveled. So I went from 25 to 35, and then I went from 35 to 50. And then I was at 50 for, golly, maybe 4 years, something like that. I'm guessing about 4 years or so at 50,000. And then stepped back and realized when I looked at all the people I had met who were coaches, what their training was, what their skills were, what they were offering,
Yeah.
and how much personal process they had done, which to me is huge as a coach. So, how much personal process they had done, I realized, wait a minute, I'm more on the higher level of qualifications. I've got more experience. I have founded 5 companies at this point, LLCs, 501(c)(3), and S Corp. Then I had a lot to bring to the table. And I also realized that the more we ask of people, the more we end up asking of ourselves. And if I'm going to be asking that of you, I've got to be ahead of you in growth. I've got to be ahead of you in personal development. I've got to be ahead of you in professional development. So the challenge to me was if I up leveled my clients, I'm going to be up leveling myself.
Yeah.
And that was exciting. I love personal growth. I love professional growth. That was exciting for me to do. And also, I realized that when clients pay more money, they become more invested.
Yeah.
And you reach a level where, as I'm seeing, the more you work with multi-million dollar clients, the more they're frightened about money,
Mm.
which doesn't have to make an ounce of sense as a child growing up in the housing projects in the inner city. Um, to me, having no money is you're eating spaghetti or hot dogs until Friday when dad gets paid again, right?
Mhm.
But no money can also mean I've got several million invested in many places, but I don't have any cash fluency.
Yeah.
And you end up beginning to see through the stories and you start to help your people through their stories, which you can't do if you haven't confronted your own stories around money, your own stories around ability, your own stories around letting go and moving forward. And to me, the more up leveling you do, the more you call yourself to get better at your craft. The more up leveling you do, the higher level of client, the higher level of expectation you bring in. So it becomes this wonderful catch 22 of I want better clients. I need to be a better coach. I want, or whatever it is you're doing. All right. I want to bring more skill. I need to bring in people who need increased skills. Right. I don't work with somebody who's, I'm thinking maybe I sort of kind of want to start a business. That was my therapy days. These days are I already have it and now I'm going forward. So you have to look at who you want to become as well as what you want to do and who's going to call you to do that.
Well, if it's not yourself, I don't know who's going to call it. Nobody's going to call
Right.
you to do that. And I'd love to know a little bit about what's required, you know, certification wise, education wise, you know, all of these things that we measure, good coaching or good consulting, or it could be video creation or editing. What's that next level for you? Now, there is a difference. I remember the days of getting one certification after another because I didn't feel good enough to charge people or help people. Oh, I need this one more thing, and then I'll be ready, and then I'll be ready. But there's a difference in intentionally deciding what is required so that I can charge more. What is required of me, education wise, skill wise, you know, maybe it's your website appearance, maybe it's your social media appearance, maybe you need to write a book, maybe it is another certification. What does that look like? To look at it from that perspective instead of, oh, I don't feel good enough. I need one more thing.
I think there's two sides to that. I think you can get caught up in spending your life accumulating certifications. The real gift you bring to people is who you are, your experience, and then the education. I do believe folks need to be certified in whatever their skill is. Right? Not everybody in the world, thank God, is a coach. There's many other skills that are needed out here. And so becoming educated in your particular expertise is phenomenal. After that, it's your experience in it that makes you the expert. Nobody has said to me, not one of my clients has said to me, what was your cum in college? All right. Not one of them has said, what college did you go to? All of that was pretty irrelevant. It's, do you have the skills I need to get me where I want to go?
Yeah.
And those skills aren't academic. There's so much more of what is your experience and who are you and how well do you work with people?
Yeah.
If you don't treat them with respect, you're not going to have them.
Yeah. And Jeremy asked a great, he has this great way of verbalizing things. He said, so I'm asking, what does a provider need to feel qualified versus what a client needs to see, hear, feel, and realize about themselves to establish that authority to charge more? Thank you, Jeremy. Great verbalization.
Yeah, Jeremy, because the fact is a provider could have every skill under the sun and still not feel qualified.
Yes.
So and again, if you don't feel qualified, how are you going to support somebody and call them forward to a place you've never allowed yourself to go?
Yeah. I love that. Tony, could we bring, I see that Mary's here. Could we bring Mary up?
Bring Mary on.
Awesome.
Mary's story.
Woo!
Mary's story is wonderful.
Yes. Hi, Mary. Welcome to Coaches in Conversation.
I apologize for being late. I had some overwhelming meetings today. So, where should I start, Suzanne?
Well, I wanted to tell everybody who you are. So, Mary is the original Million Dollar coach, founder of the Million Dollar Boardroom. She's been a mentor to me for the past year, incredible influence on me and Dorothy as well. And I want to just say thank you, thank you, thank you for pouring into me like you have. And it's been so incredible to have your influence in my life. And I'd love, if you're willing, to share the story of your first $1 million client.
Yeah, that's my favorite story.
That's mine too.
Because it goes to the point that this is not rocket science. I think it goes to the point of who do you need to become in order to get over there? You're here, you're this person today, but who do you need to become? What do you need to change about yourself? Your belief in yourself, your confidence, how you speak, how you deal with people. how you express authority, even though you might feel, what's going on with me? I don't have authority to do this inside, you know? So let me share a story. So it was 2008. My husband had died in 2001. He lost over $100 million, got leukemia, died, and left the family broke. And then my youngest daughter jumped out the window to her death 6 or 7 years later in 2008. And she was schizophrenic, and I was unable to concentrate. I lost my job in corporate America, because if you asked me my name, I would like give you a blank stare and say, who are you? Anyways, so here I am in New York, living on my Social Security, which will not pay my rent. So I'm thinking, "No, I'll clean houses, I'll become a professional organizer, get out of my head, into my hands, do something different." So my oldest daughter's a lawyer, and she was out in the Persian Gulf, Bahrain at the time, and she says, "Mom, why don't you come out to Bahrain and visit me for Christmas?" I said, "What? I can't even go to Starbucks for a cup of coffee right now, much less go to Bahrain for Christmas." She said, "I'll gift you the ticket." So she gifted me the ticket, and off I went. And I arrive on a Thursday night, because out in that part of the world, the Friday and Saturday is their weekend. Like Friday is the Sabbath and Saturday is their play day. So I arrive on Thursday night, and she hands me a box of stationery. And I said, "I'm not going to be looking for a job out here. What do I need with a box of stationery?" And she said, "Open it." And it was a box of flyers. Mary Shakun will present a workshop on Saturday. Now, this is Thursday night, and we're talking the immediate following Saturday, on how to live a fearless life. Well, I freaked out. I had never done a workshop. And she says, "You can do this. I can't support you. You have no money, and I have student debt, and yada, yada. And I can't." I said, "I didn't ask you to support me. I can, well, support myself. I'll find something to do." So anyway, I said, "What am I going to talk about? So little time to prepare, when people spend weeks and weeks preparing to present a workshop." So anyways, she had organized the venue. A friend who owned a local hotel, our manager of the local hotel, gave us the dining room. And when I arrived at the hotel, there was a big photograph of Mary. How to live a fearless life. Well, if I wasn't freaking out before, I'm freaking out now. And in the car out to the venue, I said, well, I was always kind of the go-to person in corporate America, regardless of whether I worked at the C-level or secretary. "Mary, I want to be a vice president or the senior vice president. How can I do that kind of thing? Or I want to send my kids to Harvard, or so-and-so is coming in and I need to entertain them. Where shall I entertain them?" So on the way out, I said, "Well, how much, if somebody wants me to coach them up the ladder in the corporate world, how much should I charge? $200 a session? $300 a session?" Now remember, this was Christmas 2008. And she stops for a moment, and she puts on her best poker face, and she said, "Are you crazy?" She says, "Mom, you're really daft." She said, "This is what you do. Your husband," because my husband forged my signature on papers to release the monies. He was in venture capital. It's a whole other story. She said, "Mom, your husband took your money and lost it. Then your youngest daughter, jumped out the window, and you're still standing. So yes, you can do this." And she said, "This is what you do. You put on your best poker face, you curl your toes in your shoes, and you spit out, 'I have $1 million program. I have a program for 10 months, and the cost is $1 million. And then you zip it. Because if you open your mouth yet again, you'll unsell everything you're sold." And that is my featured article on my LinkedIn. So after the workshop, this guy came up. He was from Boston, working in Dubai, and people came from, like, 500 people showed up, and I had no money, and she charged $200 a head for 4 hours. I said, "What?" I ended up with $10,000 cash after that, and this guy came up, and he was very grand and upper crust, and from Boston, had gone to Oxford and Cambridge, and the accent and the attitude. And he said, "Mary, that was great. Uh, are you a coach?" So I wasn't a coach. So I said, "Well, how can I support you?" was my quick response. Well, he said, "I'm an investment banker. I went to Harvard. I come from a very illustrious Boston family, and I have 3 black marks or 2 black marks against me where I work. And if I get another one, I'm out. And I want to be a partner in this law firm or this investment banking firm. Can you help me do that? I said, sure, I can help you. And even though, I had a master's degree in math, I worked as a secretary at a very small posh investment banking company when I first arrived in New York. And I stayed there for 3 years. But I always had an uncanny sense of watching how people play the game and all the politics, the inside politics that go on in an office, but who becomes partner, who gets this bonuses and all of that. So I said, yes, I can help you. I said, we can start, and I can help you reverse your relationship with your boss and get a clear start and start from fresh. Oh, he says, that would be wonderful. When can we start? I said, well, I was already, like, this was the Saturday, but I was thinking ahead. I wouldn't have a clue how to approach this client. Where in God's name would I start? I haven't worked in investment banking for like 30 years. So I needed 10 days to put a program together. In that 10 days, I reached out to managing partners in investment banks in America, in Singapore, in England. I didn't know them. Some of them I knew of, but I really didn't know any of them personally. And 10 of them came to my help, sending me Federal X packages of materials. This is where you start. This is what you say. This is how you do it. Call me if you need help. And that was how I started.
Wow.
So on his way out of the dining room, or the conference room, he said, "Oh, by the way, Mary, how much do you charge? Here it comes." So Mary curls her toes in her shoes. I put on my best poker face. Very hard for me to do because I'm very giggly.
Mhm.
And I said, I have a program. It's 10 months and it's $1 million. And he scratches his head and he stops to think and he looks around and he's thinking.
Mhm.
And you could see him thinking. And he says, no problem. You have my business card. Send me your banking details and I'll borrow you the money. And I said, okay. And we'll start 1 week from Monday. So 10 days later, we started. But you only need to be one step ahead of your client.
Yeah.
So I had all these managing partners in America helping me, get this client together. He became partner on time. It took a lot of work. We dressed him, redressed him, taught him etiquette, how to speak to his peers, he had a PhD. And when I say this, I'm talking slang English. He had a PhD in book smarts,
Mm.
but nothing stupid in street smarts. So anyway, he sent me 2 more people, they sent me 2 more people, and so on and on and on. And in 2015, I decided, I better learn how to do this from scratch instead of, without referrals.
Yeah.
In 2015, there was no AI at the time, and AI has cut down on this research time from 100 hours to 5 minutes, really.
Yes. Yes.
I researched my prospects, like where would I find them? I searched magazines, articles, YouTube. How do they speak? I searched YouTube to see how do they speak. Like in Ireland, we would say a baby is cute. Here they would say baby is beautiful. But cute in Ireland means cute or shrewd like a fox. So, difference in languages and that kind of stuff. So in 2015, I was also pushing the envelope from 1 million to 3 million to see if I could do it.
Mhm.
I did 5 hours of research every day. And on the 1st of January, I do not keep a journal. I would be afraid I'd die and somebody would find it. I wrote on a scrap of paper, it's January the 1st, 2015. By January the 1st, 2016, I will have between 3 and 7 clients pay me $3 million each. And bingo, it took 16 months. So by the end of the year, I had 4, and I think 4, and then by May, I had the other 3.
Wow.
And then in 2016, I did the same research with the women. Now, women have what I like to call even the managing partners, even those worth millions of dollars, bag lady syndrome. And the bag lady syndrome is that they all fear, especially the ones who are single or divorced, they all fear they're going to end up under a bridge, like under the Brooklyn Bridge with all their bags attached to them and no money. And that is their biggest fear. And so it's very difficult to it would take a year of coaching to get a woman beyond that syndrome. So anyway, I didn't get any women at all. I got my 7 men. Men pay more easily, more readily. Women will not part. The most. So last year, I got my first woman to give me $1 million. I have a program called Live a Big Life Now. And what that is about is if you want to be a global player on the world stage, I can get you there. But she was an heiress, and Daddy paid the $1 million, and there was many more of Daddy's millions behind that. So she didn't have that syndrome, but that was the only female I ever had.
Wow.
So I used the money for charity. I live a very minimalist life. People come into town and say, "Where are your high heels?" I said, "It's New York. Everybody wears sneakers. I shouldn't die."
Yes.
So it's really...
That's one of the things that's really amazing about you is you said something to me about being approachable, but not accessible, that ups your value. And I know a lot of people in this room have heard me say that at different times, that you are so approachable and warm. And Dorothy, same exact thing, approachable, kind, conversational, but that doesn't mean that you give away time with you, coaching with you, information with you, without somebody being a client. So it's that accessibility thing that's really important as you up level.
I have in 2017 or so, a friend of mine was very anxious that his friend who had just paid Rich Litvin $20,000 meet me. I said, if he has, why does he want to meet me if he just graduated from Rich Litvin? And he said, I don't know. Let's see how it goes. So we got on a call. The minute we were on Zoom, the guy, James, started, Mary, how? I said, whoa, who are you? What do you want? Introduce yourself. What's the purpose of this call? This is not a pick Mary's brain call. I charge, $5,000 if you want to pick my brain. And he had a dirty cap, a dirty t-shirt. So I said, first of all, I said, I charge money for this. Oh, I have no money. I just paid Rich Litvin. And he said, when I get my first monies, I'll send you $3,000 to your charity. Anyway, so to make a long story short, I gave him 3 hours of everything. It's not rocket science. You have to have clarity around who your ideal client is, clarity around their problems, understand them, know where they are. Are they married? Are they divorced? Or, their position. You have to have so much knowledge about them. Anyway, I gave him 3 hours. And after the 3 hours, I never got a thank you note. And days went by, no thank you note. And after 10 days, I wrote to Nate, my friend, and said, hey, I gave 3 hours to your friend. Yeah, I didn't even get a thank you. And so 2 minutes later, of course, Nate got on to James. And 2 minutes later, I had a note from James. He says, Mary, I'm so sorry for the delay, but I was waiting for the 1.5 million to pop into my bank account in Canada on Monday. It's en route. So in the 3 hours that he spent with me, I was able to empower him to go out and find the 2 clients and to close them, which is more important.
Well, I think
leads, but if you can't close them, leads are no good.
Well, something both of you do very, very well is you choose your clients. While you do get, both of you, referrals and introductions, you're also intentionally researching who those people are and saying that one, that one, that one. And that isn't really a technique you can I mean, I guess you can teach the research piece of it, but something both of you have said to me, and I'd love both of your opinions on this, is when you do find someone that you've researched and you know you could help, when you meet that person by whatever means possible, and I know both of you have gone places where you knew that person was going to be. Mary, you sat at a Starbucks one time waiting for somebody you researched. Dorothy, I know you went to an event on purpose because there was somebody there that you wanted to meet, which required an investment of time and money on both of those occasions. And when you get to open your mouth to that person, you have to tell them what you know about them and how you can help very boldly, because you might only have 2 minutes.
I had this conversation with somebody last week, and I said, you have to, when you're very shy and you're introverted and you don't know what to say, or, oh my God, how am I going to say this? Or, what am I going to say to this person? I really need this guy. And the more anxious you are inside because you need the money or you need whatever, it's more difficult for you to spit it out and to speak
Yeah.
articulately. It really is. And people get themselves tied up in knots trying to make an impression, trying to super impress the other person. Don't try to impress anybody. Just be your authentic self. I went to Whole Foods that year that I was looking for the $3 million client. It was Christmas. I had my grandson with me. It was raining or snowing. I was dressed down. We got wet going over, and we're in the payout line, and there was candy. That last line, they have candies and lollipops, and the kid was looking for this and that and the other. And this gentleman behind me said, no, 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 you have enough. You can't have any more.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm Irish, so my accent always gets a comment here and there. And he says, where are you from? I said, I'm from Ireland. And he says, oh, I would love to chat with you. Would you like to have coffee with me? He said, you go and grab a seat in the cafe at Whole Foods and I'll get the coffee. So we did. We started talking and I ended up with my $3 million client.
You never know where they're going to come from.
Yeah.
You never know.
That's it. You never know, and you have to be prepared. So if somebody asked me, I said, you have to, when you get all tied up in knots inside, you have to sort of change your identity in here. Meaning, who do you need to be? You have to imagine you're the Queen of England and that you know it all, and that you are going to tell this person how to run their business, how to live their life, how to undo all the mistakes they made in order to get their life on track.
Yes.
All about identity.
Yeah.
And it's also, none of us know everything about everything. And so you can feel really small because you don't. Or you can recognize what you do know. And as you get to know somebody, you get to know what it is they're looking for. And when you already go in with, I only do this, you've closed off, because it may be that they need something you hadn't even thought about, that you're halfway there. And by the time you work with them, as Mary did, you can be fully there. You can know so much more because you took the time to grow a little bit more. And I think one of the things she really stresses always is, who do you want to become? Who do you need to become to work with the people you want to work with? Because we've got to keep growing and learning all the time. And we're not talking about certifications.
Yeah.
It's what do they need so that I can provide that for them? And you're going to discover you already know so much. If you've already chosen to keep becoming, what do I need to become? And you've kept that going. Becoming somebody even more isn't all that big a stretch. It's just more of the same, more growing, more expanding, and more expanding your worldview.
Mm.
Focus on your limitations, or recognize how much you do know what your experience is. And be aware that even if somebody needs something from you and you've already done it 12 times, they may need it in a way you've never done it before. They may need something more than what you've done before. You can go there. If you're willing to keep going and growing, you can keep getting there, because we can't stop. There's always, unfortunately, so many more situations showing up that we have to grow into. But
Well,
it's
energetically, could you both speak a little bit to uh what's required energetically, personal presence being wise to become that person who does not give a shit, pardon my French, if the person across from them says yes or no. You're confident enough to know you can help them, and if they don't want it, I don't care. How do we get to that level of energetics with our boldness, with our conversations? What's required?
well, you've certainly got to start. Mary, why don't you take this? I could go to I could think of 6 different angles to go at.
So I think when life deals you so much shit, you become immune to what other people think. When my husband lost $100 million and we had a house in the country and a private jet and several cars and the children in the most exclusive schools in the world, and that money, that whole thing, Sunday morning he asked me if I wanted a scotch. He said, "Sit down, I need to talk to you." I said, "What could you need to talk to? That warrants a scotch." And he was Egyptian Muslim. They're not supposed to drink, but he loved his Johnny Walker Black. He said, "We need to talk." I said, "Well, yesterday I checked everything. Everything was fine. The house was standing. The kids are in school. You're okay health-wise. I'm okay health-wise." He said, "We're broke." And within 3 weeks of that, I had no phone. I had to gather quarters or pennies to turn into quarters to make a phone call. And no food. By the same token, with all of that said, not one person came and said, "Mary, are you okay?"
Wow.
Not one. I'm sure my husband went to food pantries many times because now that I look back, when you're going through it, you miss a lot. But I'm sure he went to food pantries because now when I look back and I was thinking of the food he brought home, it's not the stuff we normally buy, I would normally buy. So he must have gone to a food pantry to collect it, to get it. That's how badly off we were. But by the same token, while all of that was going on, I had 3 children in school, in private boarding schools, 2 in Switzerland, 1 here in America. I was paying $200,000 a year plus for education, and I was able to keep them in the same schools as if nothing had happened, even though we had no food on the table at home.
Wow.
And nothing interrupted their education, as if, I didn't allow anything to interrupt their education through university.
Let's the adaptability. Look at the absolute adaptability Mary has. And I think that's a huge trait that we bring into what we do. I mean, Mary adapted. And as she continues to in all of the philanthropic work she has done, all the charity she has done, because she's such a loving, giving woman, you know. But at the same time, she knows who she is.
Yeah.
So when you ask me, my first thought is you've got to be so comfortable in your own skin that no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. And it doesn't we both been married. I can't imagine going through the things she's been through. But I was raised in an orphanage and then adopted and raised in the housing projects and not allowed to live in the house for 3 years. I lived on the streets and then moved into this home and kept my mother and brothers and sisters alive. So we can go through all of these situations and we all have a story. We can look back on our story, or we can be so comfortable in our own skin because we know we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
What we go through, we're going to be okay. And when you know that, if some client doesn't want to work with you, it doesn't put you under that bridge Mary's talking about. All right. They don't work with you. Okay. I probably would not have done well with them anyway if that's what the situation is.
Yeah.
And you don't want that client that you think, how many more months do I have with him? Those are exhausting. And no matter what the price, you didn't make enough. All right. You want the clients that call you to keep growing, to be excited, to go and just be alive. And you realize not only you're comfortable in your own skin, you're loving life. Hugely different experience. So why not go there?
Well, I love the commonality of reinvention here. And I'd love to challenge the audience. We're going to take some questions and stuff in a second. The idea of reinvention, when I think about both of you, you're both masterful at still being the same person, but reinventing not only what you do for a living, but what you're doing in the world, how you're operating in the world. And Dorothy, one of the things you made me see about myself is that I had already reinvented myself 3 or 4 times before I became a coach. So the idea of helping other people do that, I'm experienced at that. I've actually done it myself so many times. And that's one of the things that both of you bring to the table as well, is this idea of being okay with things changing, things growing, things expanding, things being different. How has that affected what you're able to charge? And also how it's affected what you charge, as how has it positioned you in the marketplace as far as being a coach, a consultant, an advisor?
It's so much easier to get a client to pay you $1 million than it is for somebody to give you 10,000.
Okay, can you repeat that again for the people in the back right now?
It is so much easier to find a client and have him pay you 1 million or 3 million than it is to find a client to give you 10,000 or less. It's really difficult. How shall I say? My fees, it depends on who I'm talking to. If I'm interviewing somebody in a consultation and I feel that, they're strapped for cash and that they're really telling the truth, I might give it to them for free, but I'm not going to execute it.
Mm-hmm.
I've given my $1 Million Boardroom away for $4,000 to people who wanted to learn, but I've also charged $40,000 depending on the needs of the person I'm speaking to. So I don't have a set fee, but for me, I'm very compassionate, and it's not all about the money. Money is no good. My husband died from leukemia. He had nothing. 12 or 14 months before, he had in excess of $100 million and a thriving company. My youngest daughter was schizophrenic. She jumped out the window. She was an artist, pianist, you name it, she had a beautiful life going for herself, and she's gone. Life is so fragile. And if you can't do something with the money you have, what's the point in hoarding millions of dollars in the bank? I have a friend who inherited $1 billion. And she wouldn't even pay a cup of coffee for me. What's the point?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I find that the more I gave, which I gave most of it, 90% of it, more than 90% of it away to orphans or children or water or one thing or another, the more I give, the more I get. I guarantee you, one day I gave $5 million away and I got 10 million in.
Ooh. Wow.
It's that comfort. Again, the comfort in your own skin, but the comfort with life. And I hadn't thought of it in the context you put it, in that the adaptability, yes, but continuously reinventing ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's about believing you're
Why not?
authentic.
Yeah.
Authentic, and believing that you're okay, believing that what you have to offer is fine.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of Unlock Your Way. I hope you found today's discussion inspiring and you're ready to take your business and personal growth to that next level. If you're feeling as fired up as I am and eager to unlock that full potential, I'm here to help you on your journey and provide that personalized guidance tailored to your unique goals and challenges. Simply book a one-on-one coaching call with me and we'll dive deep into your business aspirations and see how we could co-create a roadmap for your success. And whether you're striving to scale an enterprise or just getting started, I'm here to support you every step of the way. To schedule your coaching call, simply visit the website at unlockyourwaywithstk.com, click on the Book a Call button, and we'll turn your dreams into that reality. Subscribe and review on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. Plus, you can join over 800 entrepreneurs in the Idea Lab Facebook group. Let's make success as an entrepreneur happen together. Until next time, I'm STK. Keep dreaming big, stay focused, and most of all, have fun while you're doing it.
This show is powered by Media Leads. To get your next great podcast produced, go to MediaLeadsCo.com.